you feel anxious in social settings, or if you are always phoning a friend to ask them what they think you should do in a situation, or if you just feel kind of blah, but you don't really know why, then the reason could be because you need to spend a little bit more time discovering some things out about yourself so that you can practice the art of not giving an F. To hear what I mean, keep watching because we're going to get right into it. So I'm going to preface this by saying that this is part one of what's going to be a two-part situation. In part two, I'm going to be actually giving you the techniques that you can use, questions that you can ask yourself, some things that you can think of that you probably never have before. So make sure to hit subscribe and that notification bell to be alerted whenever that goes live. And for today, what I want to do is lay the foundation for that work and for what's to come in that part two. So we're going to be looking at two key things that no one is telling you when it comes to preparing to do this work of self-discovery and to go through this process. And just so you know who I am and what qualifies me to be having this conversation, I am Johnna Renée, a certified evidence-based life coach who is here to teach you all of the ish that no one ever told me about self-discovery, self-acceptance, and self-confidence so that you don't have to live another day just feeling ugh and not knowing why. And I have coached well over 10,000 hours to help people just like you feel confident AF. And so I'm going to be sharing some of those secrets with you right here, right now, today. So let's get into it. The first thing that I want to start with is answering the question, why is self-discovery so important? Like, why does it even matter? And my first response to that is, well, how much time do you have? I'm just kidding. I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version. And I also want to note that, self-discovery is something that's been talked about since the dawn of time. And there are tons of books and articles that you can Google and resources that you can find that approach the topic of self-discovery from literally every angle under the sun, from spirituality to psychology and anything and everything in between. And I would love to hear what your take is on why self-discovery is so important in the comments below. So definitely let me know. Let's continue this conversation down there. But what I'm going to do today is give you the simplest explanation that I've come up with so far. And that is that the more you know about yourself, the more you've discovered about yourself and who you are, the better that you're going to be able to understand and navigate literally everything. And so here's what I mean. The more that you know about yourself, the more that you are going to be aware of what you need in order to maintain a happy equilibrium. And so that can look like things like knowing what you need to self-care. That can look like knowing what boundaries you need to set. That can look like knowing how to self-regulate whenever ish hits the fan, and things to avoid that might have previously been looked at as a great coping technique. But now that you know more about yourself and that you've discovered more, you're like, you know what, that was kind of maladaptive. So let's not do that anymore. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, the more you know about yourself, the more you are able to set these healthy boundaries and to, recognize the things that do or do not serve you ultimately to be who it is that you want to be. Another reason that self-discovery is so important is because the more you know about yourself, the more you're going to understand others. Because the more we look at ourselves, whether that be the happy parts that we're like, yeah, look at me, or the parts that we're like, oh yeah, that's a darker side of me that I don't necessarily like to talk about so much, but that you accept and acknowledge and are aware of because that's part of who you are, then the more you are going to be able to empathize with others whenever you recognize that within them. Because the more you know it yourself, the easier it's going to be for you to recognize it in others. And therefore, you're going to have better communication skills. You're going to create better relationships. Or you are going to be able to look at certain relationships and be like, you know what? Maybe I need to take a step back right now because this relationship isn't really serving me and being my best self. And I don't really think it's serving them either. So I'm just going to step away from now and being okay with that. Self-discovery also means that you are present to the fact that you're constantly evolving. And what's true today might not be true tomorrow. That's growth, right? What's true today also isn't true about what was true yesterday or the day before or years past. And that's part of the evolution of it, right? And whenever you are giving yourself grace in this, to not feel bad about, not knowing what you didn't know at the time, and for giving yourself, credit for doing the best that you could with the knowledge that you had, then that comes with self-discovery and self-awareness. And also that gives you the power to leverage your previous experiences so that you can better respond to experiences that come up in the future and navigate them more efficiently, which builds inner trust, which builds inner confidence, which is what we all want, right? So those are some of the reasons in a nutshell why self-discovery is so important. And like I said, want to know what you think? Definitely comment below, and let's continue that conversation and dialogue about why you think self-discovery is so important. So now that we have gotten that out of the way, how do we do it? How do we actually discover ourselves? And this is multi-layered. Like I said, I sat down to make this and I was like, oof, there's a lot of stuff. And so to make this more easily digestible, what I'm going to do is in this first part, like I said, lay the foundation for what's to come. So I'm going to give you some prep work. And so the reason that, again, I want to do that is because you need to be set up for success for the long haul. And so I want you to think of self-discovery as a journey, because it is, right? It is a journey to discover the greatest treasure of all, yourself. And so whenever you are going on a journey, what do? Well, one of the first things that you do is you think about what you need to pack, right? So here's what I mean. If you're going to go on a trip, you think about what you need to bring with you, what kind of shoes you need, what kind of clothes you want to wear, what kind of snacks you might want to take. Maybe you need a map, some emergency cash. Maybe you want to take your BFF. Maybe you want to grab your, necessary medicines or an emergency kit. So what you're essentially creating whenever you're packing your bag is a toolkit for success, right? A toolkit to help you navigate this journey, this experience. And that's going to prepare you for the known and also for some potential unknowns, right? So I want you to think of self-discovery in the same way. What are the things that you need? And what is your system for success? And so whenever it comes to what are the things that you need, I want you to first and foremost think about what you need for emotional regulation. So what I mean by that is whenever you start to notice that you are getting agitated, what do you need in order to bring you back to equilibrium? And I want to get clear on this, and I want to invite you to get clear on this, because self-discovery can be uncomfortable, right? If it were all sunshine and rainbows, then everybody would be doing it. And clearly they are not, right? You know what I'm saying? you know what I'm saying. So I want to acknowledge you first for being here and for watching this and for taking action, for being brave and vulnerable, and for being willing to get uncomfortable, all in the name of your self-improvement and your self-discovery. And with that, like I said, I want to make sure that you are set up for success for the long haul. And so I want you to take time to consider what you need in order to self-regulate. And so some examples can look like grounding techniques. Maybe you like a certain breathing practice. Maybe identifying objects in the room helps you to ground. Maybe you like to journal. I'm a big fan, not only of the writing, because a lot of people it doesn't work for them, right? But the voice noting. You can start a voice note on your phone. That's like a game changer if you've never tried that, just to like brain dump your thoughts, whether it be a to-do list or how you're feeling about a certain thing. Like it's great. You can play it back, listen to your emotion, and oftentimes solve a lot of your own problems. So try that out if you have never done it before. Is a grounding technique for you a way that you self-regulate? Meditating. Does it look like, sitting there with some incense? Or for me, I like movie meditations. I like to work out, which moving is another powerful thing that you can do to ground. Maybe you go for a walk. Maybe you practice some yoga. Maybe you throw some weights around. What is it for you? Again, maybe you like to listen to music. Big fan of Rage Against the Machine, Linkin Park. That really, helps me whenever I am feeling some kind of way. It helps me to get it out. Give me a reason to sing and yell, right? Maybe it's aromatherapy, diffusing some essential oils or lighting an incense, maybe a candle, maybe some lotion. I just sprayed this stuff from Lush on, this body spray, and whew, it is good. It is good. Maybe it looks like phoning a friend. Maybe that's a way that you self-regulate. Maybe it looks like playing a brain game. Maybe when you notice that you are starting to become agitated and you consciously know like, hey, I'm safe, like, this is okay. But again, your body keeps a score. So your emotions are gonna react. So maybe what you know that you need to do in that case, in that situation, is to pull up a brain game on your phone or on your computer so that you can bring your neocortex, that logical part of your brain, back online to put it back in control and remind you like, no, like I've got this, it's okay, right? Like maybe that's what you need. But it's important that you know. And so I want you to pick 3. You can pick more, but I want you to pick at least 3. And so I want you to pause the video. I'm serious. Pause the video, pick your 3. If you want to take an extra step accountability, you can comment them below. Let me see. I would love to know what works for you in terms of self-regulation. But I want you to make sure that you have your go-to so that when you start to observe yourself becoming agitated, then you can, oh, I need to go for a walk, or I need to listen to some Rage Against the Machine, or whatever it may be for you, right? So I want you to have those go-tos. Pause the video, rewind it back if you need, pick your 3. You can pick more, comment them below if you want, but make sure that you have this. Make sure that you have these tools at your disposal so that whenever, like I said, you get agitated, whether it be nervousness or anxiety or anything else, that you can start to self-regulate. Cool? Cool. Okay. So once you have that done, let's proceed, shall we? So the second thing that I want you to consider whenever you are packing for your trip, whenever you're getting ready to go on this journey, whenever you're preparing, when we're laying the foundation, if you will, is what's your support system? Who do you need to enlist? Just like going on a trip, if you're going somewhere, then if you want to get, the most out of it, you're probably going to hire a tour guide, right? And with your experience of self-discovery, in order to get the most out of it, do you need to hire a therapist? Is it a counselor? Is it a coach? Who is it that you need to enlist in order to make the most out of this? Do you need to bring your BFF along for moral support? Do you need to let someone know that you're going, like emergency contact kind of a situation? So what I mean by that is, do you need to tell your family and friends and those in your closest inner circle, like, hey, I'm going to be going on this journey of self-discovery. And so if you could just be mindful of that, be gentle with me, be patient, whatever verbiage is true for you. But do you need to let them know, like, hey, this is something that I'm doing, so that they can support you in that way? We all need community before we can experience feelings of love and belong. We need to experience feelings of love and belonging before we can experience self-esteem and self-actualization. So this community component is really important. And again, something that no one talks about whenever we talk about discovering yourself, right? We think of ourselves as individuals. Yourself, you are an individual, but the community aspect is so important. And so I want you to also think about who you need to enlist on this journey with you, right? The next thing that I want to talk about, whenever you are putting all the items in your backpack or your toolkit, whatever, how are we going to measure this? One of the reasons that self-discovery and self-development is so ambiguous and oftentimes, works for a little bit, but then falls flat and doesn't, is because there's no way to measure it. There is a way. We're going to talk about that, but you don't know that way because no one ever taught you how to measure it. And so here's what I mean. Whenever you are, looking to discover or improve, like anything else, whenever we're looking to set our goal, we set metrics, right? So if you want to think about this in terms of, we're going to use the example for the purposes of our conversation of working out. You can also think about it in terms of, tracking your macros or setting a budget, how many pages you read in a book, how long you worked on a project, like a time metric, right? Whatever. But whenever you are doing these things, and like I said, in this example, I'm going to use working out. Whenever you are working out, you can see the weights on the bar, right? I can see the numbers on the scale. I can see my times on the workout. Like it took me, 12 minutes to walk a mile initially, and now it takes me 11 minutes and 30 seconds. You can see those metrics, right? And so that's certainty. And whenever it comes to personal development, mental health, how do you do that? Right? How do you do that? No one ever told us this ish. And so asking yourself, so I want you to ask yourself, does measuring your self-discovery with a notebook to write down your observations, does that look like something that you can use to track it? Maybe. What about, taking strategic time to reflect? Does that look like something that help you track it? Also, maybe. There are ways to track your confidence and happiness that looks for trends so that you can get these tangible metrics on it, so that whenever you are moving through this journey, you can actually say like, oh, well, I was X metric happy. And so now I'm Y metric happy. So that's change, right? That's progress. And so I want you to think about that as a reason why you might have fallen off, so to speak, in the past, whenever you've really been excited and motivated, but then all of a sudden it just kind of fell flat. It's not you, it is your brain. It is your brain's job. And we'll talk about that more in just a second. And I'll also share a little secret on how you can start to get your baseline and track. And so I've offered a lot in terms of, what you need to pack whenever you are going on this journey, right? So what things you need to self-regulate, who you need to enlist, and how you need to measure, or how you're going to measure this process of self-discovery, right? And so the second consideration that I want to talk about today in preparing is, where are you starting from? What's your baseline? And where do you want to go? So again, to take it to the example of an actual trip or journey, you wouldn't just call the airline and be like, yeah, give me a one-way to Miami. I mean, you could, but they're going to be like, okay, like, where are you departing from? And so you can then, when you know, check the airfare prices from a departure from this city, from that city, maybe check the gas prices, see which makes more sense for you right now in order to get to where it is that you want to go. Same thing with your journey of self-discovery. You need to get really, really clear on where you are so that you can have a realistic expectation of what your options are to get there. So here's what I mean by that. Let's say that you've been watching this video and you're like, yeah, this all makes sense. And, you know, I think I'm really ready to learn more about myself and discover more about who I am. Like, let's go, right? Go where? What does that mean? Your where might not be my where. See what I'm saying? And so self-discovery is broad. And while you may have the best of intentions, setting out to learn about self-discovery is broad, right? And so I want you to consider, what is it about yourself that you want to discover? Do you want to discover more about what makes you happy? Or maybe you want to discover more about what makes you sad? Spoiler alert, those are two sides of the same coin, because the more you can experience one emotion, you can have the capacity to develop to experience the opposite to the same degree. But that's a conversation for another day. What we're going to be talking about today is, again, you know, what area of yourself do you want to discover more about? Maybe it's relationships. You know, maybe you want to learn more about how you attach and your attachment style, or how you can, you know, show up better in relationships. But you need to know what part about yourself you're interested in discovering more about, so that you'll have some sense of direction. And know that you can change directions at any time. This isn't permanent. This is just to give you a place to start. This is to give you some direction and focus. Because when you know where you want to go, you know where you're starting from, and that helps. And so let's take the happiness discovery, right? Let's say you want to discover how to be happier. You need to determine how happy you currently are on average, what your baseline is. And how do we do that? With metrics. But again, the problem is that no one's telling you how to track this stuff, right? So while sure, some things that people might share work in making you happier, if you don't have the evidence to prove that these techniques are actually working, then how can you be certain, right? Like, you may see something and you're like, well, I'm going to try that out. And you try it and you're like, well, I think, you know, I seem to be a little bit happier. Like, I don't know. I can't quite tell. Your brain loves certainty, loves to be right, because certainty equals safety, and safety is the basic of basic needs. And so when there's ambiguity, we often tell ourselves, oh, well, this isn't working. And we just default to the same thing that we've always done, because that's normal. That's our known. And regardless of whether or not that's what we consciously want, that's what makes our brains feel safe. And so we're just going to do that thing, because if nothing changes, then our brains are like, well, things are, you know, likely to stay the same. And what we are doing by giving you metrics is we are giving you proof. We are giving you cold, hard evidence that's tangible, so that when you're not sure if this is working or not, you can see if it is. And to get a metrics tracker that you can use, I want you to head to the link in the description, and I will hook you up with that, so that you can start to track your happiness, you can start to track your confidence, and you can start to get some insight on, you know, things that you do, like make notes, so that you can see some trends about, like, well, I tried this thing and, you know, that seemed to make me happier, like from one week to the other. And so, yeah, that is something that I want to give to you to support you with this and prepare you for part 2, which is going to be coming out next week, when we talk more about what these actual tangible things are that you can start to try, right? So I want you to spend the next 7 days getting your baseline happiness. And then next week, come back. We're going to talk about what some things are that you can actually start to do that will promote happiness, so that you can see what works for you, and so that you can get your metric and you can see, like, how well it's working or not, so that you can try something else, right? We are doing research and development. Life is all just R&D. You'll hear me say that a lot. And so that is what we're going to be doing. So this is part 1 of some ish I wish someone told me about self-discovery. And if you got anything out of this, please do share it with someone so that they can get something out of it too. By doing so, you're helping them, you are helping me, and you're helping yourself by coming across as someone who is in the know for that good-ish. And I really appreciate it. I appreciate you for being here and for watching and staying with me the whole time. And so thank you for that. I hope you have an amazing day. I'm looking forward to your feedback on the tracker, and I hope to continue this conversation. And I hope to see you next week in part 2. So have a great week and have fun learning about your baseline. Let me know how I can support you, and I will see you soon. Bye.